Hi, this is Achin Bhowmik. I am the Chief Technology Officer at Starkey, one of the largest hearing device makers in the world. I'm really pleased to tell you about the product that I told you a few years ago we were working on with some breakthrough technology, but it's here now, available to our patients worldwide.
And you have it right here?
I have it right here. I'm going to show you. But I first should tell you, audience, I know you, Nicholas, for many years now, from the days when I was working on perceptual computing at Intel, leading the development of real-sense depth cameras and AI for computer vision and human interactions. And you know my interest is broad in terms of computational perception. It's about how to use technology such as AI and sensors to augment human perception. So while there is a lot of work that goes on about making machines that can sense and understand the world like humans, I'd say the field of practice where you can use the same technologies, AI and sensors, but instead augment and enhance human sensory perception is what I am working on these days. So with that, I should tell your audience a little bit about hearing loss and hearing aids. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So first I should tell you, according to the World Health Organization, nearly 500 million people around the world live with what is called disabling hearing loss. So what does that mean? Disabling hearing loss, according to WHO, is hearing loss where you have to amplify sound by about 40 decibels for people to barely hear it. So what does 40 decibel mean? It's about 10,000 times amplification of sound intensity. So just imagine you and I going around and talking to people and having fun, communicating with each other. But if you have to take that sound and amplify it by a factor of 10,000, you have what is called disabling hearing loss. And there are 500 million people around the world that are living with it. As we get older, all of us develop hearing loss. In fact, 80% of people 80 years and older have hearing loss. And 85 plus is the fastest growing age group in the US today. 100 plus is the second fastest growing age group. So we're all living longer, getting older, and as a result, there's a lot of people that are either living with hearing loss today or they're going to get hearing loss. Next, I should tell you the impact on your life when you have disabling hearing loss. Number one is the loss of communications, right? You can't enjoy life like you do when you have good hearing. Just normal communications with people become challenged, especially when you're sitting in a loud and noisy environment, in a family gathering, having a dinner meeting at a restaurant, or a lunch meeting for that matter. It becomes extremely difficult to understand speech in noisy environment. But that's not all. Loss of hearing and living with hearing loss has also been directly correlated with higher chances of dementia, cognitive decline. Because if you're not sending signals into your cerebral cortex, there is loss of neurons that happens, called brain atrophy. So unfortunately, you can have as much as 5 times higher chances of dementia, cognitive declines, and Alzheimer's if you're living with severe to profound hearing loss. People also have higher chances of falling and injuring themselves when they live with hearing loss. A Johns Hopkins study showed people with mild hearing loss, have 3 times higher chances of falling and injuring themselves than people with normal hearing. So certainly hearing is an important sense by which we communicate with each other. So hearing aids are important devices.
How important is it compared to vision?
Good question you ask. So vision has this benefit in that when you don't see well, you can read something. You're not going to wait. You go run and get eyeglasses, right? Unfortunately, hearing loss is transparent. You're not aware of it until other people complain about you, right? And you think, when you get older, you think kids these days tend to mumble a lot. What you don't realize, it's not the kids who are mumbling, but it's your hearing that has degraded, right? So people wait a long time before they will go see a professional, such as an audiologist, an ENT, to get their hearing evaluated, and then they realize they have hearing loss. There's a joke in the industry. It's only when an old couple start to fight over the remote control of a TV, right? or grandchildren can't really have good communications with grandparents. That's when they desperately look for help and get hearing aids. So the reality is people don't get hearing aids when they should. And I have told you years ago that hearing aids, the industry had its own issues, right? The devices were not well designed. You go back 5 years ago, the devices were, I would say, not modern designs. And they didn't do a good job in amplifying the sound that matters to you. It was just basically amplifying all sounds, and that didn't help with signal to noise ratio, right? Speech and noise both cannot be amplified. It doesn't help. My good friend and mentor at Stanford University School of Medicine, Dr. Robert Jackler, where I'm also an adjunct professor, he says, when suddenly your colleague shows up next morning with a new pair of eyeglasses, you think, oh, she won, she got 20 points of IQ more than she had. They look smarter, right? And it's a fashion statement. But back those days, let's say 5 to 10 years ago, if someone suddenly showed up with the big and ugly hearing aids of that era, you thought they lost 20 points of IQ, right? So there was this problem. The opportunity I saw when I joined this industry 6 years ago, I would say threefold. Number one, make the design good. We are now living in an era where industrial design is important. You want devices that you want to use, not devices you have to use or you must use. Second, make these devices differentiate between different types of signals. The whole world is going crazy with machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? And much of the discussion was on computer vision, image processing. However, there was a big opportunity to use the modern algorithms of artificial intelligence and machine learning, such as deep neural network, to analyze sound in real time and understand what part of the sound is speech and it should be amplified, what part of the sound is noise and should be suppressed. And we have now this amazing technology based on machine learning and deep neural networks that just does that. So that was the second opportunity. The third opportunity is to turn these devices into multifunctional devices. If they're already in your ear, and we have extremely low energy Bluetooth radios embedded in those devices now, they should become your very own personal assistant connected to the cloud, answer all your questions, bring the world of information into your ear. It should remind you of your important tasks and answer any questions that you have. It should translate languages for you. So those are the opportunities that I saw when I entered this industry. And I have to tell you, I'm going to tell you about the product that we built now, which is available. That's a groundbreaking introduction in this field.
So it sounds like you can translate, you can augment humans, and you can even potentially decode somebody else who speaks weirdly or not so clearly to understand better what they say. There's all kinds of crazy opportunities right here.
Yes,
people wearing those might be superhuman.
That's exactly what it is. And I like to say, for decades, the focus was on enhancing what you lost, just try and bring it up to somewhat of a normalcy. But I think we are now using modern technology, with AI particularly, going a step further and giving you superhuman capability. Like you're able to, just raise the volume of the world and hear things a lot more acutely than a normal hearing person can do. And again, bringing the world of information into your ear, translating languages for you. Amazing feature.
As you were saying, some people don't know they have this problem until somebody complains to them about it. And the problem with that is that while they don't do anything about it, potentially their brain is impacted by the loss of connections, loss of signals.
Yeah. In fact,
so that's the problem, right?
Yep. In fact, Lancet Commission just picked up this area and they just published an article based on a lot of research that has happened recently. It now shows a direct correlation between people living with sensory deficiencies, including hearing loss, vision loss, and all of that, and a degradation in people's cognitive acuity, cognitive abilities. And again, as I said, higher chances of dementia as a result.
And their speech becomes worse?
Yeah, if you
don't
communicate very well and you lose those capabilities. Our brain is amazingly ruthless, power efficient. So it doesn't keep neurons alive, the ones that do not participate in processing signals that are useful to us. So if you are going to live with hearing loss for a long time, your auditory cortex and the part where the sound analysis happens, if they're not performing functions, the brain doesn't keep them alive, which is why you have Alzheimer's, and one of the reasons why you have Alzheimer's, that results from a brain atrophy.
You have to constantly keep it warm and defragmenting and active.
Right.
I guess it's good for all people to always do exercises and with the brain.
Yes.
And like make a podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like
Sure,
publish,
yeah.
translate, read, talk.
Yeah, I think you brought an interesting point that the way I like to explain to people, we all see the benefit of physical exercise. Today there is a general consensus. Physical exercise is good for you. The same is true for brain. You have to exercise your brain. Exercising brain means feeding it with sensory signals that will keep the brain active, alive, and stronger for a longer time, more functional. So now I want to tell you about this product. So we named this product Genesis AI. This new line of hearing aids that we just introduced, Genesis AI. First thing I should tell you about the design. So your audience might be surprised because I am actually wearing them now. And see, I have been with you for half an hour now. You probably didn't even notice. When I pull it out of the ear and show people, they go, "Whoa, you are wearing these devices. You have been wearing these devices all along." Right? And I picked nice and gold color, but of course it comes in white, black. You can match it with your skin color, with your hair color, and it's modern design, not like the hearing aid of your grandma's age.
And everything fits in there.
Yep, so I'm going to tell you what is in there. So in this beautiful industrial design, we got a powerful processor that I'm going to tell you more about, because I believe that's a groundbreaking introduction in our field. We have a powerful processor that has a hardware accelerator for deep neural network, which allows us to enhance speech and suppress noise. It can quickly analyze and adjust sound on the fly. In fact, this processor is so powerful, it can perform 80 million automatic analysis and adjustment of sound every hour. So that's 22,000 automatic AI analysis and sound adjustment every second. Before you even know, you don't have to be aware of it. Your hearing aid is doing it for you. Constantly collecting sound with 2 microphones that are built in here. So you got 4 microphones in the 2 hearing aids, performing directional sound enhancement. And then AI is classifying sound, differentiating different kinds of sound signals that are all kind of mushed together in an, as I call it, acoustic soup. But it's able to quickly understand what sound should be amplified and what should not be. And it's got Bluetooth radio, so it allows me to stream sound from my smartphone as a Bluetooth headset, right? And so I'm going to, before I go on and explain all the other amazing functions I have in here, let me ask you a question. As a Bluetooth headset, one that allows me to take phone calls, listen to music from my phone, stream my audiobooks, my YouTube lectures I want to listen to, how much of a battery life do you think you get from your state-of-the-art Bluetooth in-ear devices today?
So I love going on Amazon, looking at all these devices there, watch people review them and everything for the music.
Right.
And I think the cutting edge is kind of like 8-9 hours right now.
8-9 hours would be like top, and then in fact some of the most popular earbuds, you know what I'm talking about, the best-selling earbuds for smartphones, you might get 4 hours of talk time, maybe 5, right? With these devices, if I am constantly streaming audio from my phone calls, audiobooks, constant, non-stop, I'll get 36 hours of battery life. And if I'm not doing it non-stop, but using it in a typical environment, like using it as a hearing aid to amplify sound, 51 hours on a single charge, 51 hours. So with hardware accelerated deep neural network processing, we have been able to do amazing power efficiency on this. Consumes tiny amounts of power, and the tiny battery in there. The battery is smaller than what you find in AirPods.
Is it like some kind of magic battery? Do you have like special components to make the best possible battery in the world?
It's definitely the state-of-the-art battery, but most of the magic sauce is in signal processing, the computation, because we have developed tiny machine learning algorithms, tiny AI models that are stored right there that are able to do this amazing job of differentiating between speech, all kinds of noise, and different kinds of sounds. And it can make decisions on the fly about what should be amplified and what should not be based on context. I also highlighted there are 4 microphones, so it does directional sound processing. So when I'm looking at you, the device knows sound coming from in front should be amplified. So it does a contextual
Is this the lowest power AI chip in the world?
I would say that it's probably, I haven't measured everything and haven't read all of the devices out there, billions of devices, but I haven't seen one that would be having as high performance in terms of its capabilities in a narrow domain, yet such low power. 50 plus hours of battery life with a 30 milliamp hour battery. I don't know of another device that has such low power AI processing.
So I do the armdevices.net, right? And the argument has always been performance per watt. And it's not just a question of performance, not just a question of what, but you want to have as much performance as possible.
As much performance as possible.
You're achieving this.
And in the narrow area where this doesn't do everything. It's not going to recognize your face. It doesn't have a camera processing in it. But it's super optimized deep neural network for speech enhancement in noisy environments. And for that, we have developed such a low power architecture and super optimized AI model that it's able to do that with power sipping, absolutely power sipping architecture.
Do you talk about the architecture? What's your secret sauce?
I don't say a lot, but what I do is the end-to-end chain. So, the device has the 2 devices have 4 microphones, sound comes in, it goes through a machine learning layer that does classifications. Instant classification, that less than a millisecond, finds out what is that sound about and differentiates it into different types of sounds. Then it goes through all tonotopic frequency analysis to break frequencies into different frequency bands, much like what happens in your inner ear, in your cochlea, right? Because when people develop hearing loss, people may have different extents of hearing loss at different frequencies. And so we have to correct for those. And so beyond that, we have deep neural network for noise reduction, speech enhancement. And then there is, of course, the Bluetooth radio that can process sound signals coming from devices such as smartphones, television sets. And I should also mention, we also do ear-to-ear communication with an extremely low power near-field magnetic induction radio, or NFMI radio. So this little device is packed with technology, super packed with technology that's custom built for this particular application.
Is there any chance they can improve the model? Like, do you connect it with a smartphone that captures a bunch of stuff that could maybe help make it even better after you purchase it?
Yeah, so that is the biggest motivation for us moving to the field of AI and machine learning. Because in the old days, just like in computer vision, people had to do handcrafted algorithms for recognizing things. Same things used to happen in the world of sound. Handcrafted algorithms for enhancing certain signal from other signals. But what this new approach does with AI and machine learning is for us to collect more data and improve those models. So with simple firmware updates, you can push better and better models as more and more data that comes in. I like to say we have converted the problem of hearing enhancement into data science. And when you do that, there's a lot more data that are going to be available, and the models are going to improve over time. And I should explain one other thing. I have told you before, I don't have hearing loss. I have no hearing loss yet. I'm pretty sure as I get older, I will, just because it comes with biology. But today I don't have hearing loss, yet I use these devices all the time. I put them up in the morning, and then I'll remove them when I go to sleep. So what do I do with them? First, they are my Bluetooth headsets. I'm a busy person, meetings all day. When I have little time, I'm catching up on podcast, listening to the latest lectures on AI and neuroscience, or listening to an audiobook. I am using these devices as my audio streaming device all day. So who doesn't want a Bluetooth headset that lasts all day? And then these are open fit devices. I'll tell you a little bit about it. When you have your AirPods or similar devices, it blocks your hearing, right? You can really have an occluded device, and a device that occludes yourself from the environment for too long. Yeah, you'll get nervous. But these devices are open fit, means it leaves enough room around my speaker to let natural sound come into my ear. So it doesn't occlude me, it doesn't make me nervous, very comfortable, all the way I forget about them when I have them on. Next, we have built-in sensors inside, and we were the first company to do it. Inertial measurement units with MEMS, accelerometers, and gyroscopes. So they are my physical activity tracker. How many steps have I taken? If I have done indoor biking. So they are my trackers like your smartwatch can do. But hey, why bother with other devices when you have something in your ear already? For older people, it goes beyond the gimmick. We are the only company that have embedded a highly accurate fall detection technology into our hearing aids. So if the patient falls, in fact, people with hearing loss have higher chances of falling. These hearing aids can detect if they fell and send alert messages to their caregivers or loved ones who they have given permission to get their data.
Who can immediately call in the hearing aid and ask, are you okay?
And it will show the caregivers a map of where you might have fallen. And I hear these stories, it's kind of get emotional about it. Some patients who'd approach me and say, this was such a good idea because it saved my life. We had a customer who's an audiologist himself, but he uses our hearing aids, and he had fallen on his driveway and become unconscious. His wife, who was far away, got the alert and came and took him to hospital. So he said, I could have been lying around there for hours if there was not an automatic fall detection and alert through my hearing aids. So these are examples of how we can turn a single function device into a multi-function product that provides more value to the wearer.
Are there ways that you can potentially even have more and more features if people think that they would like to have step counting?
Yeah.
Or
so we have that. We have step counting already. So in fact, I'm going to show you the app that comes with this device. And if you go to the health button over here, I have just put on my hearing aid to show you now, but it would count my steps, stands, and exercise and all of that when I have worn it for a while. And then we have a function called edge mode that allows you to super optimize instantly for speech, noise, or you could just say, give me the best sound for this particular environment. So it's going to capture the sound environment here, and it's going to decide based on the AI model that's built in, what's the best amplification scheme as a function of frequencies and all of that for this environment. And of course, you could simply change the volume of my hearing aid. Right now, I just made everything very loud.
So if I whisper, you hear everything?
Yeah, if you whisper, I hear it. Or I could keep it on mute because I don't have hearing loss. I could simply just mute it, right? But I'm getting all the other benefits, Bluetooth headset and all of that, step tracker, fall detection. So this is sort of like an attempt at modernizing hearing aids, making them more useful, making them multifunctional, so that people will finally want to wear them, not because they have to, but because they would like to. Enhances their life.
Does it also enhance the sound even for people who don't have hearing loss? Is there a way that it might make my weird speech a little bit more clear?
It's a great question. In fact, I have an example. So even though I don't have hearing loss, and I can keep the hearing aid on mute most of the times, but I will turn it up when I'm in a challenging listening situation. I'll give you an example. Even with my normal hearing, in a loud and noisy restaurant where I'm having a lunch meeting, I struggle to understand speech, just because the speech is buried in noise, right? So it's called signal to noise ratio. It's really poor in a restaurant. The person that you're trying to listen to, their speech might be at a lower level of intensity than the background sound. In that environment, when I turn up my hearing aid, with the AI model that's built in, it can perform signal to noise ratio enhancement for speech in noisy environment. So suddenly it will add multiple decibels to the speech signal and take down the noise multiple decibels. And I can get 8 to 10 dB enhancement in speech understanding in noise, speech in noise, than my normal hearing. So that's where the superhuman capability comes in. right? So I can understand speech in a noisy environment better than my normal hearing allows me to do.
So at the display week, it made you a better president, right?
Yes.
Because you get to let's say after a keynote,
Yep.
there's some discussions happening, but when you have them on,
Yes.
you can more clearly focus and have a better answers and be a better.
I certainly have an edge. So yeah, you brought up display week. Like we are enjoying display week this week here, and it's about the human interface with technology, right? And technology is progressed so rapidly, the computation, connectivity, device designs. But at the end of the day, humans need a way to interface with the technology. You need visual displays to see information. You need in-ear devices to hear information, and it's multimodal. And the way you interact with them, you want to talk to these devices. So the ways that this world is coming together with augmenting human senses, allowing for human device and human technology interactions, that's what I see as the next big breakthrough on ubiquitous proliferation of technology and devices into our society, more than what we have already.
So I like some podcasts where one of the guy in the podcast talk about his hearing aid that really changed his life, and then he talks about that. I think it's in the US, they changed the definition of hearing aid or something to allow some cheap devices to come in, but it's not the same because you need to have a professional to calibrate carefully how it's done for a personalized. But is there a way your AI can even improve that process of calibrating and personalizing?
Yeah, I think your podcaster probably was referring to the over-the-counter hearing aid bill that's passed, and now we have OTC hearing aids in the market. We have an offering as well. But you pointed out most people with hearing loss that requires personalization and fine-tuning of the devices, they still prefer to go to a doctor, an audiologist, a professional who can perform delicate measurements and evaluations of hearing loss and personalize what is called perform fitting of those devices. So OTC allows people to simply buy a device and self-fit themselves. So it's going to have an additive effect on the market. It's not cannibalizing or taking away from the medical grade hearing aids where you need to go to a professional audiologist to get it optimized.
Is there a way that your over-the-counter solution could be superior than everything else? Because maybe you have a way to perform some of the, I don't know what happens when, what do you call it?
The audiology. Yeah, so there are two parts to it. One is, the first part is personalization. There you must make a good measurement of the power frequency analysis of your audibility threshold. So what does that mean? Normal hearing, you might have read in biology books, our hearing system can detect sound anywhere from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. An ideal hearing system does that. But as we get older, our profile of audibility, which is, at given frequency, how much sound amplification is needed for me to barely hear it, it's a strong function of frequency, and it varies from person to person. And so that measurement needs to be performed, the result of which is called an audiogram. You also have to perform speech in noise testing. Let me explain that a little bit. You might be hearing fine, but you may not be able to understand the speech. These two are not necessarily directly correlated all the time. Some people will have perfect audiogram, or two patients can have identical audiogram, yet one struggles a lot more than the other in understanding speeches in a noisy environment. Why does that happen? I think you pointed out how if you're living with hearing loss, some of the functions that your brain performs in differentiating between different kinds of speeches, enhancing one, suppressing other, those functions are performed in the brain, right? Ear sends the neural pulses to the brain, and brain performs the analysis and understanding of the sound. So if the brain has lost some of those functions, you need help from the device itself. So our device, this one, with its built-in hardware accelerator for deep neural network, is able to perform some of the function that your healthy auditory cortex does. But if you lost those functions, we can actually do pre-processing to enhance speech signals and suppress noise. In a normal environment, your brain would have performed that function, but you may have lost that ability. So yes, we can have our devices pre-process signals to help people understand speech over noise that they can do it by themselves.
And maybe for the professionals, for the audiologists, working using your device gives them more tools to offer better service to the patients?
For sure. So first things that they do, I was talking about personalization, two kinds of personalizations. One is the personalization per frequency for amplification. So the audiologist or ENT professional does that. You measure your audibility at every frequency and measures the resulting audiogram. So that's the acoustic personalization. The device can also have mechanical or form factor customization. So some patients would prefer to have a completely custom ear mold or a completely custom device that goes all the way in the ear. So we'll take a 3D scan of your ear canal and the ear shape and make the device perfectly fit your ear. So a professional will perform those functions. Even a simple thing like how long should the cable be between the end of the hearing aid and the end of the speaker, right? That's also a strong function of an individual's geometry of their 3D face profile. So those functions are very important functions that are performed by the audiologist. And often people don't understand, particularly if you're living with hearing loss for 10 plus years, let's say sometimes 20 years, you need gradual rehabilitation. So let's say you come to our office with profound hearing loss. If we simply crank up the sound amplification to match your audiogram and just give you normal hearing, you're not going to like that. You're going to be disoriented because you're going to hear all these sounds that exist in the world that you have not been hearing for 10 years, right? And so your brain cannot handle all of that. So an audiologist professional will have you come back to their offices and have fine tuning and slow acclimatization to the world of hearing from the world of not hearing. It's a very important function that the professional can perform.
So my grandmother, Annie, is having hearing aids, and I want for her to have a solution to, because she enjoys watching the TV,
right?
That it should just be automatic. She sits in a sofa and it switches to Bluetooth to the TV automatically.
Yes.
And it just has a very clear sound and enhanced in that way, but in a smart way, because you don't want it to be connected all throughout the apartment. It needs to be just at the right time.
So I can tell you she probably like these devices because they also come with an accessory. That accessory device can plug directly into the TV, and it has a Bluetooth that is compatible with these hearing aids. So it can actually stream the audio from the TV directly into her hearing aids. And so she doesn't need to crank up the TV volume high up and make other people uncomfortable.
And it will still be normal for my grandfather who doesn't use the hearing aids.
And in fact, it allows for that amazing individualization, right? Because these devices are already pre-programmed to match your hearing profile. So when you are streaming the audio signal into the hearing aid, the device corrects for the intensity as a function of frequency before it delivers into your ear, and other people have their hearing. Some people may not need anything, or there could be multiple people with hearing aids that are listening to the sound. So it's pretty amazing.
Because I don't know if Samsung and all these TVs, I don't know if they automatically have a function to do Bluetooth and sound at the same time, or when people connect the Bluetooth, there's no more sound.
So
you
it's ahead
need
of
to
us.
have both, because
coming.
not everybody has a hearing aid maybe in the room.
So what we do, today we solve the problem with an accessory device that we actually provide along with the hearing aids. So you take that accessory, plug into the TV, and that accessory is streaming, because just a Bluetooth radio is not good enough. You need extremely low energy. It's called BLE radio with audio streaming capability. So actually there is a new standard that just got published, and we will be coming up with devices that could stream directly from the TV without needing the accessory once the TV has the same Bluetooth compatible chip as the hearing aids.
So it's really interesting thought to consider, because I like all technology that makes people more productive, and to become a superhuman in that way. I always wanted to walk around the display week with a smart glass and with all the comments from my chat in there. But it'd be awesome if also I could hear people I interview more clearly, because I'm sure if I can hear them 10% more clearly, my questions will be 10% better. And my content will be 10% better, you know, like, and it's not just for YouTubers, it's for anybody who does any kind of productivity.
Yes.
You know, if you hear better, you speak better, and you're more interesting to be listened to, right? People.
I would extend that to having both people having hearing devices. Let's say you are an interviewer, you have your devices, and I am being interviewed, I have my devices. I hear you clearer despite standing in front of a noisy and crowded exhibit floor. We will be talking to each other a lot more comfortably, understand each other better, and communicate better. Yeah, certainly it would give both of us superhuman ability. If both of us had 10 decibel better signal to noise ratio, where the background sound is suppressed and only the speech conversation is enhanced, we will be having a very effective conversation despite all of the noise around us. That's the idea.
And all these cities with all these cars and everything, it's not really natural, right? It's kind of like something we invented the last 100 years. So the noise canceling function is it's work.
Yeah.
It's fully like
so I have to
what
say,
people would expect, would want to have.
The way that you should differentiate hearing aids from noise cancelling headsets. The job of a hearing aid is complicated. You don't want to cut off all of the sound. So imagine if you have an over-the-ear noise cancelling headset, what is the use model? Well, you could be in a study room and all you want to do is listen to music and nothing else. Or you are on board an airplane where you just want to cut off all the sound. Put on your over-the-ear headset and prevent all of the sounds from coming in, and then do active noise cancellation inside to cancel all of the sound. Hearing aid has a lot more delicate function to perform. I cannot cut you off from environmental sound. It would be dangerous. As you're going around in the downtown and walking around, you need to hear that car honking or the ambient sounds. But what you want to do is hear that less than the speech when you are in a conversational environment, right? So hearing aid's performance or function is a lot more complicated. It has to, that's why today's hearing aids these hearing aids are so exciting, because they use AI to decide out of the cacophony of the sound, what should be amplified, what should be suppressed, but not completely canceled, right? So these are magical devices, unlike simply noise cancelling headsets.
How about, let's say there's a podcaster who's using hearing aids. Can he just use his hearing aids directly with any computer or whatever he does to do his podcasting, right?
Yeah.
There's no need to use other headphones. Oh, could he also put headphones on top? Or that makes no sense.
You could put a headset on. I mean, see, these are relatively, there's nothing prevents me from, I have used noise cancelling headset on.
Make sense to just have any headphones on that you want?
Yeah, you could do that. So the point is this, right? So if I have an over-the-ear headset that's covering the microphones of this, so this device is not going to be able to amplify things then, right? Because it needs to collect sound with its microphones, which are on the device. So if I now cover the whole thing with a noise cancelling headset, they are basically just going to sit there and do not do anything, right? But if once you remove your occluding device, they're back and working like they're supposed to.
All right. So one thing that's, you mentioned 500 million people. So I like to think that hopefully there's a way your technology can be affordable to 500 million people.
Yes.
Is that in the plans?
Certainly. So I think that the way I look at it, being a technology guy coming from Silicon Valley into the space, roughly 15 to 20 million this year, probably about 20 million new hearing aids are sold every year. And this is a really low volume, right? You think about it, there is 1.5 billion smartphones that are sold every year, right? So once we increase the awareness, that's one, and the awareness was not there. Next, the devices need to be modernized with the design. Compare this device with big and ugly hearing aids that you typically see in press, right? So this certainly helps remove the stigma. Next, using AI to make the devices perform better. Don't amplify noise, just amplify speech, so it's better for me. Next, having Bluetooth radio and extremely low power, allowing me to stream all day without having to charge. Track my physical activities, track my health, translate languages. I can double tap and ask a question and get an answer spoken into my ear. I believe all of these functions are going to make these devices a lot more compelling, and more and more people will get them. As the volume goes up, as you know, so does the prices, right? And I believe we are on the cusp of breaking free from the old world of stigma that just hampered adoption of hearing aids. And as we do that, this device is very popular. As it's brought to market now, I can say we are very happily surprised with the demand, we cannot make enough. It's like supply constraint in terms of momentarily from how many we can sell, but we're quickly fixing that. It's like days and weeks. So the demand's picking up. I believe we are on the cusp of breaking free from the old world of stigma, lack of awareness, and that should bring about a new type of economics into this space.
So I'm half Danish, right? And used to be the football coach of Denmark. He was doing advertising for the Danish hearing aid company,
right.
And they're pretty famous, right?
Yeah, so there are 5 big hearing aid companies in the world. We're the only American one, Starkey. We have about 6,000 employees, close to $1 billion in revenues. The other 4 large hearing aid manufacturers are out of Europe, and they're public companies. So yeah, I mean, all of us are performing an important function of making devices that are better than previous. I have to say this one is standing out as just by far state-of-the-art technology that should provide an uplift to the entire hearing aid industry.
But do these competitors, these other guys, also work in that field, or not yet? Or
I think the way I look at it, once you introduce a new technology, I think it has an impact on the entire ecosystem of bringing things up, right? So over time, you'll see everybody's device perform better than their prior generation, and devices are going to be designed to look better as well. Some features we continue to be the only one, such as fall detection. So no other hearing aid company has been able to integrate fall detection yet. But I'll give it a few years and everybody will have it. And then we'll have the next one. We're actually currently working on fall prevention. Today we can detect if somebody fell already, but we have an exciting collaboration project with Stanford University where we are validating the technology where the hearing aid can perform gait analysis as I walk, and it can detect deterioration in gait and can tell me what my risk of falling is. So imagine if an old person who has a risk of falling, it might be falling next month, and their hearing aid could tell them the risk of their falling, so they can see their doctor or make adjustments to their lifestyle. So not all hearing aid companies have been able to copy all these things yet or put into their device. But over time, I would say that the entire ecosystem is on a path to making the devices better and better.
It's a bit like Tesla came and convinced the whole world to go electric cars.
Right.
So maybe you want to have that kind of role.
For that matter, smartphones, right? Once Apple came up with iPhone in 2007, within a few years, there are many manufacturers with amazing smartphones, right? So I see that as a good thing, where we want to bring up the quality of experience for our users worldwide. Because if a company puts out a bad product, it actually does disservice to the entire industry, because it will exacerbate the usual stigma and negative opinions about the products.
But are there any competitors trying also to do speech, not noise? Or have they been doing it a different traditional kind of way that they've been doing it, which is not using AI and chip in that way?
I would say today, if you look at the top few hearing aid companies, everyone's working on enhancing speech in noisy environment, because this is seen to be the #1 problem for hearing aid wearers or hearing loss patients. So every company is working on their own ways of doing it. I believe with onboard deep neural network accelerators built into the chip itself, we are the first ones to bring about, I believe, a step function improvement in this, which likely is going to proliferate further. In a few years, you should see a significant improvement in the entire category of enhancing speech in noisy environments.
Can you say something about the architecture? Is it an ARM Cortex M something?
Yeah, I can say a little bit. So the chip itself is custom processor. It's got a general purpose ARM core for general purpose processing, but it has 6 different cores in there, including a core that's dedicated to deep neural network accelerator. And then we have filter banks that are specific for sound analysis. So we've got 6 cores in this, but there is one that is a general purpose ARM core in there that does all of the management of the processors.
And there's a secure firmware updates?
Yep.
And they will just be coming forever?
Yeah, so
it's a
great question you ask. When I joined the industry 6 years ago, the only way for you to upgrade the firmware in the device was to take them back to your audiologist, and they will pair these devices with their programming equipment and upgrade the firmware. These devices changes all of that. So they have robust memory architecture that allows you to upgrade the firmware remotely via the mobile app. right? So just like a modern consumer electronic device, once we have an improvement on a feature, we can push that to your app, and you simply upgrade your firmware.
And it's
the device
secure
is
update. It's not going to break the device.
Nope.
There's no risk for that, and it doesn't matter if the connection is slow or whatever. It's just going to safely put it in there.
So we have re-architected the firmware and the hardware in these devices from the prior generation, such that there's enough memory you have put in there. In fact, I should tell you the number. We have 10 times more memory. There is 5 times more onboard processor memory and 10 times more non-volatile memory in this device than the prior generation, 10 times. And I should also tell you a little bit about the computation improvement from generation to generation. 6 times more transistors, and it can operate at 4 times the speed. So just a different machine compared to what we had before. So it allows us to have the device perform with its prior operating system and firmware while the new models are being uploaded. So you don't break the device, and you can just keep using it until it gets refreshed with the new firmware.
So I've done videos at the embedded world for more than a decade, and it sounds, when I look at all the chips and the nanometers, the investment in the fabs, or what's it called, like the detail in the Cortex-M area seems to be a few years behind what you put in smartphones or servers or something like that. But maybe with more and more wearable, there's more investment happening in putting the cutting edge process node and technology in your field.
Okay, yeah, so I think so this goes into, and I'll put my computer engineer hat on now. At the end of the day, how much computation do you want to perform? How many transistors do you need? What kind of battery life do you have? When I have a big device like this with a bigger battery on the back, the predominant focus then is to increase the number of transistors and the horsepower of the computing engine in there. When you have a device like this that needs to be small enough to sit around my ear or go inside my ear, and it has to provide me with 50 hours of battery life, the equation is different. There, it's all about energy efficiency, right? So yes, we have 6 times more transistors from the prior generation, but I cannot be irresponsible with its battery life. So the way that we design this architecture to balance between computational performance and energy efficiency is at a different ballgame than typical wearable devices like your wristwatch or smartphone.
But I would think, I'm just a YouTuber, I'm not a chip designer, but I would think that when people talk about 5 and 3 nanometers and stuff like that, you could make a much smaller chip with the 5 or 3 nanometer. It doesn't have to be a huge iPhone chip, right? It could be, but I wonder if that's also in the play, because then I don't know how you designed the chip, but it has to be cutting edge of what's possible.
So in terms of the process technology node, that's one knob that you have in cranking in more transistors in the same size chip. Certainly, we don't want to make the devices any bigger. So when you want to put in 6 times more transistor, in fact, we have a smaller chip than last generation. So in a smaller chip than last generation, we can squeeze in 6 times more transistor. So certainly, that's a knob that we have in manufacturing to keep progressing towards later and later generations.
And for people who know how to use the smartphone, because some people, I would guess, in the 85-year range, doesn't really even want to switch between those 3 modes you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Because they might not even have a smartphone, but and they should. Everybody should. I'm joking, but they should. Right. But some people who might have good hearing anyway, but use them, or who want to customize it.
Yes.
Are there a whole bunch of ways they could maybe get into the nitty-gritty and kind of like constantly calibrate it the way they want it?
I think you brought up a very important point, and we have taken that into account as we design this. We have to realize that there are a lot of older people that are going to use these hearing aids, and they are not going to use smartphones. There are many. And so these devices, for their basic operation as a hearing aid, you do not need a smartphone. They're self-contained and independent. You do not need an app. The device's onboard deep neural network engine has, I would call, the default function is the easy one, which is automatic adjustment of sound. It has enough context based on the sound it receives to optimize for you without any intervention. The app provides you with a lot more control. In fact, I showed you how you can control the volume up and down with the app. We have buttons on this hearing aids that allow you to do the same thing. You can just press the top button for increasing volume, the lower button for decreasing the volume. And you could configure those buttons. Your audiologist professional can say, the button for short press button, long press button.
To switch the modes.
Yeah, one button could be for bringing up, tracking my physical activity. That doesn't require a smartphone either in terms of, because the accelerator and gyroscope is built into the device itself. If you have an app, you have a lot more control, but you don't need the app to use the hearing aid.
For decades, I love going to clubs, disco, and concerts and stuff like that. But I'm always worried about the volume in there, and I wonder. I put these things in my ear, and that's one way, right? Yes. But it kind of destroys the quality of the sound. It'd be awesome if there was a way to put something together with that, where it would filter and just give me amazingly clear sound, but also protect my hearing.
So I'm going to tell you something you're going to like. So the product I showed you is called Genesis AI. Look for another product we have. It's called Sound Gear. Sound Gear, G-E-A-R. One name. Many people don't even know it's a Starkey product, because if you go to soundgear.com, you'll buy this amazing device that sits comfortably in your ear, custom made for you, perfectly fits you and occludes you, and yet it has the engine of our hearing aid inside with amazing AI that can do exactly what he said. It will be transparent in terms of bringing in sound that you want to hear, but if there is dangerous levels of sound, for example, suddenly there's a loud sound, it could be it's popular with musicians as well as hunters and shooters. It will clip off rapidly rising dangerous levels of sound, and yet it's transparent for you to enjoy life around you. So it's called Sound Gear. Check it out.
Nice. Okay, this is awesome. So you mentioning that this is launched not so long ago, and in US and Canada, right?
We just recently launched in the US and Canada, and we are working with regulatory bodies to bring them to the US. You'll see us bring it worldwide in UK and Europe and worldwide later this year.
People want to buy it in India, in Canada, in China,
worldwide,
everywhere. It's going to be possible.
Our current generation of product, which is called Evolve AI, is available worldwide. They are best in their category, and we have taken our best product and made it. I mean, this new product is way better than our last generation product, but we sell Evolve AI already worldwide, and this device is going to be available worldwide in the coming quarters.
So my grandmother tells me that her hearing aids are quite expensive, and it sounds to me like it's something in the industry that it kind of is expensive. Yeah. So but like we were mentioning before, hopefully it's one of the goals of your company to also try to bring this to the mass.
Yeah.
Right?
So I should explain I don't know your grandma's particular situation, but it could be that majority of the price that she's paying for the hearing aid is for the services of the audiologist. When we go to a doctor, and you don't even see the bill sometimes, but the actual cost of the hardware is probably smaller portion, maybe 20%. Most of the money that we pay is for the professional services, the doctors, the repeat visits, the warranty, and all of that. It could be that I would not be surprised if 80% of the costs are for the professional services, because probably she can go back to the audiologist anytime she wants for the rest of her life. Sometimes these deals are so good. So the devices themselves are not thousands of dollars that people say.
And with the more affordable devices, it's not going to take the jobs away from audiologists, right? Even with the AI and everything, because you're talking about 20 million out of 500 million. Yeah. So let's get more people to use them, and it's way more work for them.
Mm-hmm. I totally believe in that. I believe the increasing awareness and more people using it will only increase the work for the audiologists and ENTs. There's no way it's going to put them out of business, because the professional function, the aspect where your unique pathology of your hearing, whether it's the problem with your eardrum, the middle ear bones, unique pathology that you might have, that a professional needs to help out, or even personalizing the devices to fit your acoustic profiles or your mechanical profile. I believe the work of audiologists is going to increase, and there'll be a lot more demand for audiologists who serve hearing loss and not less.
So combine this with the most amazing augmented vision products, right? And what are the other senses?
That's exactly what I believe.
The touch.
I think that the senses of vision, hearing, touch, haptics, leave out the smell and taste for now, but these are already here, and they're going to be required for immersive augmented reality and virtual reality experiences. Can you imagine being immersed with a VR and AR headset where you don't have 3D sound. You can only see 3D visuals around you, and the dog might be barking over on the right, but the sound seems to come from everywhere. You need localized sound as well, right? So they have to work together. In real world, you heard yesterday about Turing test, visual Turing test. I would call it perceptual Turing test. So if you see an object somewhere in your visual field, you want the sound to come from there too. You want immersive sound as well as immersive visuals, and you want haptic and touch feedback as well. So these three senses have to combine together, plus the sense that we cannot see. That's the vestibular sense of motion. So they all have to work together, be consistent with each other for us to enjoy an immersive digital world.
I hope you don't mind I ask you a couple more questions, right? So I like these smart assistants, the Hey Googles and everything, but I always wish I wouldn't say Hey Google, and I always wish I could customize and have my wife speak to me in my head,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be amazing if you had customized voice and customized way of speaking, and also it was kind of like assisting you and saying, don't forget your meeting, go over there, or do this stuff, but it's kind of like part of the smartphone app maybe, and it kind of, enhances
in fact, it's not so far. So as they say, the advances in AI is so fast these days that once you wish for something, probably shows up quickly. There's already amazing progress. I've seen demos of speech generation. So you could take somebody's voice and train the generative AI model such that the voice coming out of your assistant can actually mimic that person's voice. It's already here. And you're going to see the progress from today's world where you can pick from a library of 3 different types of voices. In the future, you can completely customize it. It could be your voice or your wife's voice or somebody else's.
It could even be somebody who's not here anymore, and that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
If this becomes reality at some point.
Yes, it is reality.
If you can record, you can give them the access to all the emails, all the communications, the recordings and stuff like that, and suddenly it speaks in that way, and it keeps you emotionally
connected and attached.
But still also more productive and less, maybe sad and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, that world is here. I believe that the recent progress that you're seeing in generative AI with large language models, it's quickly spawning into multiple different generative AI streams, including speech generation from samples of speech, where you can train a model and it will sound like a particular person, is already here. It's going to be in devices soon. So
there you have for the sound solution. And so I'm looking forward to the next display week next year, where maybe we will see by that time, the perfect augmented visual solution.
We should
and
see
boom,
that.
you just combine this, and you have a bunch of superhumans walking around the earth.
I think that future is right ahead of us, and I can see that we are on the cusp of breakthroughs with these technologies. Sensors, like imaging sensors, sound sensors, computational advances with artificial intelligence, and then amazing new form factors that you saw at Display Week, of all of this coming together in form factors that make it comfortable to wear. So I look forward to seeing you at Display Week in San Jose next year, and we're going to talk about state of the art at that time, and what do we see as the future evolving a year from now.